Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
It begins with a whisper, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about Snoop Dogg. For years, he has been seen as the smiling face of pop culture, a laid-back presence on family television, a reformed legend turned national treasure. But what if behind that calm voice lies something far darker? What if Snoop's connection to Sean Diddy Combs isn't just about friendship or business, but an arrangement built on leverage, exposure, and quiet fear? That's the claim now being made by former bad boy bodyguard Gene Deal, that Snoop's loyalty to Diddy doesn't stem from trust, but from what Diddy allegedly holds over him: private footage, secret meetings, and the looming threat of ruin.
So why should I care? He did a whole lot of shit to a whole lot of people, and now he's paying for it. So all these cats, I guess y'all get y'all visitation rights. Some of y'all can get y'all conjugal visits right with him. I don't give a
When Gene Deal speaks, the industry listens, and because few people ever got as close to Diddy's private world as he did. For years, Deal was Diddy's shadow, protecting him, eating with him, and keeping his secrets. He once said he would have given his life for the man, but that loyalty shifted when Deal discovered that Diddy, the man he had devoted himself to protecting, had allegedly ordered people to target him. When news broke in early 2025 that Diddy had been sentenced to 50 months in federal prison, Deal didn't hold back. "I could care less about his sadness," he told The Art of Dialogue. That single line cut through the industry like a blade. It wasn't just bitterness, it was a warning. Deal claimed that Diddy's empire wasn't built on friendship, but on fear. And behind that empire, he hinted, were names no one expected, including Snoop. By the time the judge announced Diddy's sentence, 50 months behind bars, a $500,000 fine, and 5 years of supervision, Homeland Security had already raided his homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Inside, investigators reportedly uncovered digital recordings, photographs, and devices containing what one agent described as evidence of control. It was the kind of discovery that fit perfectly with what Gene Deal had been warning about for years. That Diddy hadn't just built a music label, he had built a network of leverage. People in his orbit did what he wanted because the alternative was worse. And in that light, the rumors surrounding Snoop no longer sound like idle gossip. They start to look like part of a much larger system.
And he was gang related, so it was like our first meeting was on bad terms because we were still gang affiliated and we were using gang terminology on the introduction.
Snoop Dogg's name rarely surfaces in stories like this. He's the man in commercials with Martha Stewart, the smooth voice cracking jokes during the Paris Olympics, the upbeat coach on The Voice promising honesty and good vibes. To most, he's America's friendly uncle, not a power player lurking in the shadows of bad boy records. But Gene Deal's allegations cut straight through that image. He claims that Diddy and Snoop shared more than just music industry connections. According to Deal, Snoop was financially entangled with Diddy in ways that went far beyond business, ties so deep that Diddy could now use their shared history as leverage. Deal suggested that Diddy possessed private recordings involving multiple high-profile figures, and that Snoop's recent alignment with Diddy's interests wasn't coincidence, it was survival.
So him being neutral in the beginning was amazing. And then him choosing sides at the end was a demise.
We can see the clear pattern begins to emerge when we trace the timeline. Just months before Diddy's sentencing, Suge Knight, calling from his cell at a San Diego facility, accused Snoop of secretly trying to help Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, the man charged in connection with the 1996 Tupac Shakur case. Knight claimed that Snoop wanted Davis released because he was talking too much. At first, it sounded like paranoia, but as more details surfaced about Diddy's fear of exposure, Knight's words began to sound far more deliberate. Keefe. D's testimony had already linked Diddy to alleged offers of payment tied to the same incident. If Snoop truly tried to intervene, it may not have been out of loyalty to an old friend, but out of a need to protect a shared secret. Viewed through that lens, Snoop's transformation over the past decade looks less like reinvention and more like strategy. He went from a man once facing serious criminal charges in the 1990s to one of the cleanest, most bankable brands in entertainment. Every endorsement, from food delivery services to athletic sponsorships, helped bury his past beneath layers of corporate charm. Yet industry insiders began to notice something unusual. As Diddy's world started collapsing under mounting legal pressure, Snoop remained completely silent. No public comments, no distancing himself, not even a hint of criticism. For a man known for speaking his mind on almost any topic, that silence was striking. Sources close to Gene Deal claimed that Snoop's quiet wasn't accidental. It was contractual. The kind of silence kept by someone who knows they're being watched.
Both on her personal story and on things she observed with Cassie. But, I don't think it's the same as blowing up Kid Cudi's car if the jury believes that Diddy did it. I don't think it's the same as...
Meanwhile, Diddy's fall from grace was far more than a personal downfall. It was systemic. Prosecutors portrayed his conviction as part of a broader network, one that involved moving people across state lines for private encounters, maintaining hidden recording systems, and using those materials to keep associates obedient. Former partners described it bluntly, not as affection, but as control through evidence. One even said it wasn't love, it was leverage. That's precisely the kind of system Gene Deal has been warning about for years. And if his claims hold true, Snoop isn't an outsider to that machine. He's one of its most visible products.
Specifically challenges allegations suggesting that Mr. Combs and his involvement in the 2018 of his former partner, Kim Porter, whose passing was officially attributed to natural causes by the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office.
What makes the story even more unsettling is how Snoop's public alliances seemed to tighten after Diddy's arrest. Instead of creating distance, he appeared to double down, showing up at events once sponsored by Diddy's team and reportedly sending messages of support to their mutual associates. Industry insiders began to wonder, why would someone with a spotless public image risk his brand to remain connected to a man under federal investigation? Then came the whispers, claims that Diddy's legal team possessed recordings far too compromising to ever be made public, allegedly involving several A-list celebrities. And one name that kept resurfacing was Snoop's. No one outside the investigation has seen such footage, and no major outlet has confirmed its existence. But Gene Deal insists it's real, saying, Diddy keeps everything because that's how he survives. While Snoop has carefully built his reputation as a family man, mentor and household icon, Suge Knight, still vocal from prison, continued to dismantle that image. In separate interviews, Knight accused Snoop of playing a role in Tupac Shakur's downfall, and argued that Snoop's current loyalty to Diddy was proof of a deeper, long-standing agenda. They all learned from the same playbook, Knight said, referencing industry powerhouses like Clive Davis and Russell Simmons, both of whom Gene Deal also accused of shaping Diddy into what he called a monster. Each statement wove another, thread into a larger tapestry of old power, hidden leverage, and the unspoken rule of loyalty through fear. As these accusations mounted, Diddy's former allies began fading from the spotlight. Executives quietly resigned. Artists wiped photos from social media. Some of Diddy's closest confidants stopped returning calls altogether. And yet, through it all, Snoop remained visible, smiling through television appearances, commercials, and courtside events as if nothing had changed. To some, that confidence looked like control. To others, it looked like a man overcompensating for the weight of what he knows.
Man, I feel good, man. I feel good way before the sentencing, and I'm gonna feel good way after it. You know what I'm saying? That the sentencing don't have anything to do with how I feel. It just goes me to show that tells me when God puts you in a position and puts you in a place to be involved in something, his word ain't never wrong.
Timing matters. Gene Deal spoke out just days after Diddy's sentencing, when images of the disgraced mogul in tears filled every social media feed. God is good, Deal said, framing the moment not as mere justice, but as divine payback for the years of manipulation and betrayal he claimed to have witnessed firsthand. For Deal, Diddy's downfall wasn't just a conviction. It was proof that the empire he built on control and fear was finally collapsing. And if Snoop was part of that system, even unintentionally, then his carefully constructed empire of endorsements, television deals, and family-friendly branding could be next to fall. The concern isn't that Snoop might lose fans. It's that the evidence Diddy allegedly possesses could destroy far more than reputations.
I have never seen, until Kendrick now, I'd never seen anybody from where I'm from, the area I'm from, the place I'm from, do what Snoop did.
What's striking is how quickly narratives can flip in this industry. Just a year ago, Snoop was the face of NBC's Olympic coverage, cracking jokes with commentators, entertaining global audiences, and embodying effortless charm. Today, his name surfaces alongside reports of federal raids, secret tapes, and old vendettas that refuse to stay buried. The same man once praised for mentoring youth and coaching football now stands accused by insiders of protecting a mogul facing charges that could redefine hip-hop history. Each new interview from Gene Deal adds fuel to the fire, daring others to step forward, and with every word, more names begin to shake loose. For now, no one in Snoop's camp has addressed the claims. His publicist continues to secure upbeat appearances, while his social media feeds remain filled with sponsorships and brand tie-ins. Yet behind that calm exterior, whispers grow louder. That Diddy's seized archives, reportedly recovered by Homeland Security, might contain recordings of meetings, conversations, and private encounters spanning decades. If even a fraction of that material involves Snoop, it could explain his caution, his silence, and his continued cooperation with figures tied to Diddy's remaining business network, despite mounting public backlash. The real question isn't whether the evidence exists, it's how long it can stay hidden, and what exactly Snoop might still be doing to make sure it does.
And as soon as I walked out of there, I went in the bathroom and I threw up. And just laid on the floor for like 30 minutes. His mama came in there and cleaned me up.
Behind every empire built on glamour lies a number, and in this story, that number is $1 million. That's the amount investigators say Diddy once offered for the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. The claim originates from Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, whose 2009 recorded conversation with law enforcement has resurfaced in newly unsealed court documents. In it, Davis alleged that Diddy was willing to pay millions to end his feud with Death Row Records once and for all. At the time, Snoop was signed to that very label, caught between two worlds, one ruled by the street wars of the night, and the other by Diddy's growing empire of ambition and control. It's hard not to wonder whether that old conflict planted the seeds of the loyalty we see today. A loyalty that, as Gene Deal describes it, isn't born of friendship, but of fear disguised as faithfulness.
Nah, nigga, what's happening?
I own Death Row, so I do what the fuck I want to do.
2 decades later, Snoop acquired what remained of Death Row Records for an undisclosed amount. On paper, it looked like a poetic victory, the student returning to own the classroom. But Suge Knight, still behind bars, didn't see triumph. He saw betrayal. In one of his prison phone interviews, Knight challenged the narrative outright. "Show me the paperwork. Show me what you own." He claimed Snoop hadn't actually bought the label, calling the move a facade, a hollow brand repackaged for public consumption. To Knight, it wasn't Snoop's empire at all. It was just another layer of Diddy's influence. When the timelines are compared, the pattern grows sharper. Diddy's empire cracking under federal raids, and Snoop stepping forward to revive a label once locked in war with him. It doesn't look accidental. It looks choreographed. At the same time, the lawsuits began piling up. In 2023, a civil case quietly resurfaced, accusing Snoop of assault related to a backstage encounter nearly a decade earlier. The claim never made major headlines, but insiders say Diddy's team knew about it before it reached the courts, a detail that matters. Because in this world, the ones who know first are often the ones holding the leverage. When Gene Deal said, "Snoop has to do all the dirty work," this is what he meant. Not crimes in dark alleys, but the invisible favors, the silence, the late-night phone calls that keep secrets buried. What if this was never about friendship or loyalty? What if Diddy built something far more sinister? A psychological trap where loyalty becomes dependence. According to Deal, Diddy wasn't born a monster. He was made one, molded by mentors who used manipulation as a business tool. The concept isn't new in entertainment. Make people believe their success depends on you, and they'll never risk crossing you. But in Diddy's world, the trap ran deeper. Former insiders claim he didn't just hold contracts. He held footage, recordings, and evidence of moments too private to ever face daylight. And those who tried to walk away were reminded, quietly and effectively, that the tapes still existed.
About look at Diddy, for instance. Let's take a look at him. Let's take a look at, he has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on right now.
Snoop's charm, his corporate reinventions, his transformation from outlaw to household icon, what if none of it was organic? What if every pivot, every appearance, every endorsement wasn't a creative choice, but strategic compliance? Each rebrand, each softening of his public image might not have been for fans or fame, but for protection. As Diddy's empire began to fracture under the weight of indictments and federal raids, Snoop's persona grew safer, smoother, and more universal. It made him useful, a friendly face to preserve the legacy while the man behind it all sat behind bars. That's why Gene Deal calls it dirty work. Not the kind done in the streets, but the kind done in plain sight, maintaining illusions, keeping the myth alive while the truth stays buried.
But what people I don't think realized was he had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
And then there are the tapes. Homeland Security confirmed seizing multiple electronic devices from Diddy's residences, some containing what investigators described as sensitive footage. No one outside the case has seen what's on them, but those familiar with the raids insist the contents go far beyond Diddy's personal life. According to insiders, the recordings include interactions with artists, executives, and well-known public figures. If even a fraction of that material involves Snoop, the implications reach far beyond mere blackmail. It would suggest that the entertainment machine itself, the tours, collaborations, reconciliations, and televised reunions, has been quietly running under a system of coercion. Everyone smiles for the cameras. But behind the lights and laughter, no one truly speaks.
I don't buy for a minute that he's going to prison without getting out of here somewhere and stashing $2 billion or whatever. I think he has that kind of power, meaning Sean himself. But remember, it goes a lot deeper than that.
We've heard whispers that the recordings seized from Diddy's homes were meticulously organized, not as random archives, but as insurance files. Labeled, cataloged, and separated by names, each file reportedly represents a form of leverage, and each name a threat of obedience. If that's true, then Snoop's continued immunity from scandal isn't luck, it's alignment. He plays his part, stays marketable, and maintains the illusion of innocence. His image, clean and profitable, serves as both distraction and preservation. Because in a structure built on control, the greatest danger isn't exposure, it's irrelevance. Once you stop serving the system, you become part of the evidence. We can't ignore Suge Knight's warning from early 2025, a phone interview that briefly circulated online before vanishing from most feeds. He said nobody is not Jay-Z, not Dr. Dre, not even Snoop, and is stepping up to defend or condemn Diddy. On the surface, that silence seemed like self-preservation, an understandable refusal to get caught in another man's downfall. But as the silence stretched on, it started to feel coordinated. In an industry where every headline is monetized and every statement rehearsed, collective quiet says more than any press release. It implies that everyone understands just how fragile the balance really is. This isn't the first time hip-hop's upper echelon has closed ranks around trouble. We've seen artists disappear from collaborations overnight, executives quietly erase names from credits, and longtime associates scrub old photos from their pages as if those connections never existed. Those disappearances aren't random, they're strategic withdrawals. Defensive maneuvers. When Suge said, "Nobody's stepping up," he wasn't calling anyone a coward. He was identifying a code. A form of omerta unique to this industry, where protection doesn't come from loyalty, but from mutual vulnerability. Everyone has something in the vault, and everyone knows it. If Gene Deal and Suge Knight are right about the recordings, then the tapes don't just incriminate individuals. They preserve an entire economy of silence. The fear isn't of Diddy anymore. It's of what those archives symbolize. For every artist possibly caught on tape, there's a producer who filmed it, a manager who booked the room, a lawyer who drafted the NDA. The chain of complicity runs so deep that no one can cut it without wounding themselves. The result is paralysis, a culture of quiet where everyone waits, praying the next leak doesn't have their name attached.
To not be involved with a famous singer, to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those. This is what I heard. They're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X, and Tommy X is a big, big movie star, and he was at some of the Diddy parties, he was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman, and blah. Tommy doesn't want that video to come out. He does not want it to come out.
We have to consider the possibility that Diddy's influence was never the full picture, that it was merely the visible surface of a much larger architecture of control. One constructed not by a single man, but by the record labels, promoters, and financiers who long ago discovered that power, when weaponized correctly, could be monetized. Through that lens, Snoop's behavior looks less like submission and more like strategy. Staying visible keeps him valuable. Staying quiet keeps him safe. His silence isn't weakness, it's survival, and he's likely not alone. The same logic could extend to dozens of others, moguls, executives, and chart-topping artists, all bound by an unspoken pact that trades truth for longevity. It's not about who's guilty or innocent anymore. It's about who can afford to look innocent the longest.
Same thing for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the interesting thing about the Epstein and the theory about Epstein is we know he filmed people for sure on that island. He has a lot of movies, a lot of films of people that are very, very powerful political figures, and entertainers, business people. So do you really believe that Jeffrey Epstein himself? And of course not.
And that brings us to the darkest question of all. What if the silence isn't born from fear, but from calculation? What if everyone already knows the tapes are real, yet they're all waiting, quietly and strategically, to see who gets exposed first? If that's true, then this story isn't just about Diddy's empire or Snoop's compliance. It's about an entire industry built on secrets so deeply intertwined that pulling one thread could unravel the whole fabric. The day someone finally breaks that silence, it won't just end a career. It could shatter the illusion of control the music world has sold us for decades. Suge Knight's accusations, Gene Deal's testimony, Keefe D's revelations, they all seem to point toward the same hidden network. And the more we piece together, the clearer the pattern becomes, a hierarchy of silence stretching back generations. Diddy at the top holding the files, Snoop at the center maintaining the image, and a lineage of artists too afraid to speak, because every conversation, every meeting, every secret might already be on record. When we view it through that lens, Diddy's downfall isn't the end of an era, it's the unraveling of a script that's been playing since the 90s. But here's the final twist we can't ignore. If those tapes truly exist, and if Snoop really is the face keeping the brand alive, then we're not just talking about one artist protecting another. We're talking about a system where careers, endorsements, and even cultural nostalgia are managed through fear. The next leak. The next confession. The next revelation. Any one of them could redraw the entire history of West Coast music. So we have to ask, if Diddy's empire was built on blackmail, and Snoop is his most famous puppet, how many other stars are still performing someone else's story? And when the curtain finally falls, will the audience be ready to see what was real all along? Until then, we'll keep watching, we'll keep listening, and we'll keep asking the questions no one else dares to ask. See you in the next one.